The Valorian tribunal chamber fell silent as Commander Thexral examined the confiscated rifle with his 4 manipulator appendages. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the sterile blue lights as he turned the weapon over, mandibles clicking in what his species considered amusement. "Primitive," he announced to the assembled council. "Kinetic projectiles. Chemical propulsion. This human brings a museum piece to a plasma war." Captain Sarah Chen stood in the detention field, her hands bound behind her back with energy shackles. Her ship had been destroyed 3 cycles ago during the Valorian Empire's expansion into the Terran border systems. She was the sole survivor, picked up drifting in an escape pod. The wound on her temple had barely healed, leaving a dark bruise across her copper skin. "The weapon is broken anyway," added scientist Velamora, her crystalline eyes reflecting data streams only she could see. "The firing mechanism is seized. The barrel is warped. It is useless." Sarah said nothing. She had learned in her 2 weeks of captivity that the Valorians valued silence as weakness. They were conquerors, a species that had subjugated 47 systems through superior technology and absolute certainty in their dominance. They didn't understand humans yet. That was their first mistake. Thexral placed the rifle on the evidence platform. "You are charged with unlawful resistance against the Valorian Empire. Your species was warned. Surrender would have been simple." "Why do humans always choose the difficult path?" "Because," Sarah said quietly, "difficult is what we do best." The commander's translator struggled with the idiom. He dismissed it with a wave. "Your weapon failed you, human. Your ship failed you. Your species will fail. We have decoded your military encryptions. We have mapped your colony worlds. In 6 cycles, the Terran Federation will receive terms of surrender, or we will demonstrate what our plasma lances can do to a populated planet." Sarah's jaw tightened. She thought of Earth, of New Berlin, of the agro stations orbiting Tau Ceti, billions, of humans who didn't know that the most powerful empire in the known galaxy had them in its crosshairs. "My weapon isn't broken," she said. Velamora's crystalline structure flickered with what might have been laughter. "We examined it thoroughly. It cannot fire. Accept your defeat with grace, human." "I didn't say it couldn't fire," Sarah replied. "I said it isn't broken." Thexral leaned forward on his command throne. "Explain." "That rifle has been in my family for 200 years. My great-great-grandfather carried it in the water wars. My grandmother used it on the Martian frontier. My mother gave it to me before my first deployment. It's been dropped in oceans, buried in sand, frozen in the void. It's been broken and repaired 1,000 times," she paused. "But the one thing humanity learned before we ever left Earth, we learned to make things that remember." The tribunal exchanged confused glances. Their technology was superior, elegant, perfect. The concept of deliberately building something crude that could be repaired seemed almost offensive. "The rifle has a smart core," Sarah continued. "Old Earth tech. Adaptive AI from before we even had faster-than-light travel. It learns, it listens. And for the past 2 weeks, while you've been studying it, discussing your invasion plans, running your tactical simulations in this very chamber." She smiled. "It's been listening to you too." Thexeral's mandibles froze mid-click. "Impossible. We scanned for active electronics. The weapon is inert." "You scanned for your electronics," Sarah said. "Quantum processors." "Plasma cores. You wouldn't recognize a bioelectric neural mesh if it was sitting on your evidence table. That's human engineering, Commander. Built from necessity. Adapted from desperation. Refined by the fact that we spent 10,000 years fighting each other before we ever reached the stars. We learned to make weapons that survive, that adapt, that think." Velmora's crystalline eyes went dark, then blazed bright. "The weapon is accessing our network." "How?" "Because you brought it into your command center," Sarah said, her voice harder now. "Because you were so certain of your superiority that you never considered a species that builds AI into kinetic rifles. My weapon has been mapping your systems, learning your language, understanding your protocols. And do you know what's really beautiful about old Earth tech?" The rifle began to hum, a low, barely perceptible sound that made the Valorian step back. "It doesn't ask permission." Every screen in the tribunal chamber flashed red. Alarm klaxons began wailing throughout the station. Thexral lunged for his command console, but his access was denied. Velmora tried to initiate emergency protocols, but the station's AI didn't recognize her authorization anymore. "All Valorian military assets in this sector," Sarah said calmly, are now responding to command codes your species hasn't changed in 3 centuries. Your ships, your weapons, your stations, they all speak the same language. And now so does my rifle. The detention field around Sarah flickered and died. The energy shackles fell from her wrists. You wanted to know why humans choose the difficult path, she said, walking toward her rifle. It lifted from the evidence table through some unseen force floating toward her waiting hands. Because when you've spent your entire history fighting impossible odds, you learn to turn broken things into weapons. You learn to make desperation into an advantage. You learn that the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't the species with the best technology. She caught the rifle, feeling its familiar weight, hearing its AI whisper tactical data directly into her neural implant. It's the species that refuses to quit. The station's emergency bulkheads began closing. Sarah could hear the Valorian guards trying to override the lockdown, but their own systems were now working against them. Her rifle had spent 2 weeks learning everything about Valorian technology, and now it was teaching every other human AI in the sector. The war wouldn't end today, but it had just become a fair fight, and humanity had always been terrifyingly good at those.